everybody. My name is Steve Smith, the editor of PHC News Magazine. Welcome back to PHCPPros Live, where we're doing a series of live interviews from our booth here at ASPE. We got the best for last, for today at least, with Mark. I don't know who we're going to do tomorrow, but Mark Olson is the CEO of Caleffi North America, and he's joining us for kind of a last-minute addition to the schedule, to be honest with you.
Hey, you got to be flexible in this business.
I'm calling this Caleffi Unplugged.
I like it.
How's that?
I'm pretty unplugged right now.
So now, you got a nice exhibit space. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about what's going on there?
Well, it's a brand new space, brand new booth, and as we continue growing the business, we grow the booth. So we've gone up vertically so that as engineers and contractors come in, they can look around and they, unlike in past years, there's Caleffi. It's up there, I'm going over that way.
Okay. Right.
So that's one of the differences that we have this year. But inside the booth, the sizzle is really with how we display the products. We created this innovative acrylic way of embedding our products.
Yeah.
And it makes the products basically just kind of float.
That's it looks suspended.
Yeah, it's suspended, and so we have cutaways of all of our products so that the engineers who like to ask questions and know what's going on the inside, we could say, at eye level, here's what's going on here, and here's how this works, this is how this works. Yeah.
And you're well known for publishing your Hydronic magazine.
Right.
And I know scattered around the booth, there's, I guess, a couple different looks to them or additions. I mean, what's going on there?
Well, always new additions. We come out every 6 months with another Hydronics, and focused on this industry, we came out with pressure control in buildings, basically pressure reducing valves, and so that's been popular. And of course, the product to go along with it, we have some additional pressure reducing valves that are pretty innovative, pretty exciting. We're hoping to maybe get some more awards, recognition for that product line. So we'll wait and see from.
Good. We're going to count on that.
Okay, good.
So, other than the booth, other than ASPE, how's everything going? I mean, I know you and I talked several months ago, and I remember one of the quotes that you gave was that you had more product in the big barn than maybe you wanted to have. Meaning the big barn, meaning your warehouse, and more because what, financially, maybe you wouldn't want it otherwise, but it's not normal times.
Thank you for joining us for the 2022 ASPE Convention and Expo. The exhibit hall is now closed. Please join us again tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. when the hall reopens. There will be a 15-minute courtesy period to be scanned to receive CEUs until 5:15 today. Please make your way to the exit, and thank you again for joining us.
All right. I think we're back.
Are we clear?
I think we're clear.
Okay.
I was revisiting an interview you and I did several months ago. You talked about having more inventory than maybe normally you would want to see. I remember also you were saying how you kind of felt the urge to drive a pickup truck to O'Hare or wherever the cargo is to maybe just grab a couple of items. Has that stabilized at all? I mean, what's
it has stabilized in general. I would say that the reason why I said that we typically don't like to have too much inventory, right? Too tied up in capital.
No.
But because of the need to have product available in this time when other people can't get products available to the market, we needed to be flush. So we were really flush the last time we talked. Since then, the availability issue on the marketplaces, I think, improved a little bit, at least from our perspective. I think judging from the competition and what our reps are saying is that there's still a lot of problems out there. But we're still doing really good with the supply chain universally. There's a few components, electronic components are a little bit of a hiccup right now. But by and large, it's been really good. And we've kept our lead times down to where they always are, a couple of days.
And a lot of the prices of your raw materials and circuit boards and things like that, I mean, I think you might have mentioned circuit boards are like twice as much as they used to be.
Yeah.
Is that any different?
No, and they're not going down, that's for sure. Very rarely would you see something like that go down, but it's just still an issue about availability right now with the circuit boards included. And we don't make too many components, we don't manufacture too many components using circuit boards, but we have some key componentry or products that do require circuit boards in our lineup. So it's a real critical one that we have a lot of resources always trying to pursue, making sure those components, circuit boards and the like are available.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I'm really happy. The feedback from the market is that, I mean, I've heard quote unquote, in our industry, at least in our market, Caleffi is about as good as it gets in terms of availability. And Yeah, I can't take credit for it. No one can take credit for it, but the collective company can take credit for it, all the way up to the material planning guys in Italy, right on up to the top.
Okay.
That's where it starts.
So what can we look forward to in the months or year ahead? I mean, in terms of product, maybe services, training, something?
Well, always training. We're big on excellence in education. That's our mantra, because we have many avenues of training plumbers and contractors and the like. So that will continue, and we'll always look for new ways of getting the message out to meet people where they're at in terms of where they want and how they want education delivered to them. So that's a given with us. But separately, I think you're always going to see new products, innovative products coming from Caleffi. Always. That's the lifeblood of us continuing to keep elevating, innovation with.
Anything specifically you can talk about? Maybe that's coming out next year.
We have some unique plumbing products I think are going to really be of high interest in the marketplace next year, building upon some products that we have already in place today, taking it to the next generation. So it's about as specific as I can get at this point.
I understand.
In time.
I want to revisit the training one more time, because not that long ago, maybe last week, 2 weeks ago, we got a press release celebrating 20 years of contractor education, at least in North America. And you rattled off quite a lot of different varieties. I think it's
Right.
it's worth noting some of those. Can you reiterate some of those bullet points that I remember from the press release? Because it's quite any way you want training, it seems like you offer it to contractors.
Yes, that's correct. The most recent has been podcasts. We have a podcast series that's been going very well. In fact, you were a guest on our podcast series. Thank you very much for that. And
Thank you.
I guess the ratings just went through the roof after that. So
I was predicting it was number one.
Yeah, well, you're still up there. So podcast format and webinars, long webinars, short webinars, hybrid webinars.
Yeah.
Bring in the samples, have someone there showing the product, but maybe back in the home offices, we have someone, actually an engineer or a trainer, giving the training. And so we're able to show and tell from a distance. So that's been popular, very popular. And then, of course, is just now that there's more and more travel, people just want to be out and about. So we have no less than probably 7 or 8 people in the market right now of Caleffi that can train. And then, of course, there's an extension of us, our reps, that we're always spending time training them too, which is a task because we have quite a broad product line.
And despite the variety, is there any return, I guess, to the old-fashioned notion of a classroom where I'm sitting? Do you see a resurgence of that at all? I mean, people more comfortable going?
Absolutely. We see, I wouldn't say a resurgence. I'd say, though, that there's definitely a more comfortable level with being in proximity to other people, okay? And so we see that, but there's a lot of still remote working out there, especially at the specifying level. I think that might not go away anytime soon. That might be in place permanently as a result of this last couple of years. So to the extent that those remote workers will come in and just attend training might not be cost effective for the firm, as an example. So you're seeing combinations, I think, of wanting to be in person, nothing about looking the guy in the eye and shaking their hands and showing products, show and tell. You can't beat that format. So we try to do pretty much anything that we can do to based on what our audience wants. Yeah.
And I like the notion of the hybrid, your show and tell.
Yeah.
Because it does seem that it is expensive to travel somewhere for training.
It is. You just, well, first of all, you might have one guy traveling. That's expensive. You have 2 guys, maybe a salesperson and a trainer.
Right.
That's more expense. So we can minimize costs and travel time by having someone that's expert in the topic, whether it's pick a topic, recirculation, hot water circulation system, whatever. Now you can do it with half the resources, having to travel, okay, and devote those resources to doing some other things, whether that be more training development, product management, what have you. There's no lacking of things to do, that's for sure.
No, there isn't.
Yeah.
People seem to be more, I guess, used to the notion of digital learning, perhaps.
For sure.
I mean,
oh, no doubt. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for
3 years
myself,
ago,
I didn't like the Zoom notion of interviewing somebody because I'd rather be there.
Yeah,
or
sure.
at least even phone them.
Right.
But Zoom is the next best thing, I find now.
Well, we've kind of pioneered digital training with our webinar series, Coffee with Caleffi, and I think in the United States, I think we were definitely a pioneer. If the leading pioneer into this HVAC and plumbing space. So we got a pretty good feel for how to do that. And we've had lots of success that continues to this day, continuing on with that series. If some reason we have a hiccup and we don't do a series at a particular time, like the third Thursday of the month, we get phone calls, what's going on, did I miss the series kind of thing, which is good feedback. So there's definitely been something that we've been involved in, but since COVID, it's expanded now to people that didn't want to do that in the past. They wanted you to be there. You want to come, you want my business, you want me to specify you, come tell us about your product. Now they're much more open to cyber training. It might even be a half an hour webinar.
Right.
It might not be, or 15 minutes even. Just a real quick, hard ones, just get started, what's the line, okay, and let us come back to you with what we want to get into more specifically the next time.
So my last question is about business activity. You've touched on some of the things, but what's going to happen in the next several months?
Well, I think with in the next few months, our business will probably have a really good close to the year. But it's interesting you asked me that, because I just came back from Italy and reporting on order trends around the world. This is all the subsidiaries in Germany and France and England and Portugal and et cetera, reporting in. And universally, the quarter started this year versus last year up substantially. We saw it in our industry. Second quarter, a little bit less growth year over year. Third quarter is trending a little bit less growth yet. So I think we got wholesalers that have a lot of inventory on average. I think they're flush with inventory because if they didn't have inventory before, they lost a sale. And it was a safe thing to have, is a lot of inventory, because it was going to move. Well, things are moving a little bit slower. Home construction, the long and short of it is I think this year will still end up pretty good. Next year and the next couple of years, I think in residential building is going to be it's going to be a tough go in the next couple of years. But I think commercial industrial is going to be still pretty strong.
Okay.
There's too many tailwinds for that sector to not continue growing.
And is that safe to say? You mentioned you just came back from Italy, all these trends were reported. Is that true around the world or just North America?
It's true around the world.
Really?
I see a very similar pattern. You think the United States is a little bit isolated and unique with our interest rates and our strength of the dollar. You think all that plays into something unique for the United States, but it was interesting to see very similar trends regardless of the market. So that was eye-opening. We're a pretty connected industry globally. It just goes to tell, trends happen more or less the same time and more or less similar to degrees.
Okay.
So looking into next year, I think it's going to be probably a tough year. And if you were in sales and what have you in the past in this industry, you might have had a little bit easier going this last 2-3 years, then maybe you're going to have this next 2 or 3 years with continuing to grow the business as a commercial person.
All right. Well, we'll look forward to some of the positives, I guess, and deal with the negatives, or at least the flattening of the
Just got to manage the
growth.
negatives, right? Be smart about your spending.
Right.
Yep.
Very good.
Okay.
Well, thanks, Mark.
All right, Steve.
We'll see you again.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks.
All right.